What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Most Valuable Podcast. I am Mark Williams with my colleague
Victor Castro.
and we're just two dudes who do real estate for a living. Man, what crazy times we live in with the stock market crashing. Maybe we're on the cusp of a new recession. Who knows? Who knows who's saying what's right and what's wrong? But what I do know, Victor, is that a recession does not cause the housing market to crash. Do you agree?
I 100% agree, and we have the facts to prove it to you.
We do have the facts to prove it to you. You know what? Before we dive in and we get into a little bit more details, look, information is out there. You got to be careful where you get your information from. Even if you're taking our word for what we're saying, we appreciate that, and we're here to just spit facts and not just blow smoke, but you should always do your own fact checking, okay? So right now, you know, we're in a spot in the economy where a recession's happening, even though we've been in a recession. We've been in a recession.
Just because it wasn't disclosed to you doesn't mean we haven't been in a recession for the past years. We've all felt it.
Yeah.
All of us.
Bread was 3 times the price last year, same price last year as it is today, right? Food cost was just as expensive last year as it is today. You know, a change in government didn't cause these prices to change overnight. Actually, eggs are cheaper now. Anyways, that was caused because they killed a lot of egg-laying hens because of it's like a chicken disease or something, but if it spreads quickly, right? So they actually slaughtered all. I'm not going to get into it, but that was the reason why there was a brief egg shortage. Anyways, so get your facts, right? Because if you just listen to the media, you think that eggs just went up in price because of nothing.
Everything can be twisted one way or another.
Yes.
I mean, we see it all the time.
Take it from somebody that has a college degree in media. Media is ran by money, is ran by corporations. Whoever is the biggest sponsor gets their message out. It's for entertainment. The news at 10 o'clock is for your entertainment, not for your education. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's 100% facts.
All right. So recession equals housing crisis, right? So some of you may be on the fence, like, man, rates are crazy right now. Homes are so expensive. This recession is riding out. I got some money in crypto. I got a little bit in the stock market that's not taking too much of a hit, or I got some money in my savings. I'm going to wait till prices go down, Victor. Then I'm going to jump in and buy a house because they're going to crash again. And when it crashes, I'm going to be in a position to buy.
That's what you think.
Let me give you some numbers.
Not as easy.
This was a pretty crazy fact that I was able to track down. It's kind of made its circulation through social media, but depending on who's presenting it, what's funny is it's the same information, but depending on who's presenting it,
twisted words.
It could be a little bit different, right? Yeah. But it's not. It's pure facts. So since 1950, you got to remember, mortgages didn't really take effect, I think, until like the 50s, right? 1950 to 2024, right? Let's even say 2020. So 75 years of data. This is 75 years of data, okay? National home values have only declined 7 years out of the last 75 years. So in 75 years of data since 1950 to 2024, home values nationally, so this isn't pertaining to even the bubble here in your area or in the Bay Area or if you're in another area, national average, okay, has only declined 7 years out of 75, which means 68 years there has been positive growth in the national home prices, okay? Those 7 years at a decline, 5 of them came during the Great Recession, which took place 2007 to about I think we were out of it around 2013, 14 fully. And then for those of you that may be unfamiliar with the Great Recession, you should watch this movie called The Big Short.
Great movie.
Great movie. And what the Great Recession was the housing crisis that swept worldwide and caused a worldwide economy to have a recession. That's the only time in history when we had a recession that the recession was caused by the housing market. Right?
Right.
The recession wasn't caused by the stock market dropping. It was caused by the housing market bubble exploding, where all these companies had so much money in real estate and things tied to real estate. And when all this bad lending and people taking advantage of the system on both sides kind of came to an end, the story was too good to be true, then you had this huge crisis happen. Okay? So the years that it went down, and I have percentages. So 2007, the housing market went down 5.3%. That was the start of the Great Recession. The peak, 2008, it went down 11.9%. In 2009, 3.7%. So you already saw like almost a stopgap, right? Like you had a sign showing that things were going down pretty drastic, because the year before, if you look at this though, if you look at these numbers, and man, maybe I can send this graph to Alex and he can put it on the screen behind us, or there'll be a link in the podcast if you're watching this on YouTube to click. There's signs of this though. So look at the growth before the recession, okay? 9.3, 2000, 9.3, 2001, 6.7, 2002, 9.6, 2003, 9.8, 2004, 13.7, 2005, 13.6, 2006, 1.8. Why was there such a big drop? 2007, minus 5.3. 2008, minus 11.9. 2009, 3.7. Oh, they figured something out, right? 2010, minus 4%. 2011, minus 3.8. 2012, positive 6.5. There's money. People make money during recessions, right?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, the people that survived 07, 08 is the reason why 9, 10, 11 wasn't as drastic, because they were buying stuff. They're buying it at the low, at the bottom.
At a discount.
And then within, whoever bought in 2008, it went up, or whoever bought in 2011, because it's compounding, right? So it went down 11.9, then in 2009, 3.7, 2010, 4, 2011, 3.8. The time to buy was 2011. Because whatever you bought in 2011, the very next year you were up 6.5%. Yeah. And then in 2013, you were up 10.6%.
And that's compounding.
Yes.
Okay, that's not like 16% total. That's over the amount you already made.
Yeah. So the time to buy was 2011.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is that was caused by the housing market crashing. And there was a clear sign that the housing dropped from people overspending, stated income loans. You walk in the bank, had good credit score, you get a loan. You got to watch this movie. The Big Short. Yeah. Just watch that movie.
Great actors in it too.
Great actors, and you know what? I like it because it's legit, right? It's obviously it's a movie, so it's entertaining, but the facts in it are very true, right? And here's the thing: the other two times the market had negative growth, okay, was 1990, negative 0.7, and 91, negative 0.2.
Which is
nothing.
Nothing compared to the drops in 2007.
Even you got to think about, and that's what you got to think about though, Victor. Like, this is what's frustrating to me is like, okay, let's just say in 1990 a home was $250,000. Okay, I think that's when my parents bought their home. It was like $250,000, right? What's negative 0.7% on $250,000? It's not even 1%. What's 1% of $250,000? $2,500, right?
Yeah.
So it went down
$2,500.
$2,500. So if you were on the fence about buying, that extra $2,500 is going to make it more affordable? No.
Absolutely not.
And then the next year was 0.2%. But you see, if you got that information and you say, oh, there was a dip in the market.
Oh, I got to buy.
Yeah, okay. You saved $2,000. You even gotta look at it this way, though. Okay, let's just say dude, I'm looking at these numbers, bro. It's crazy. Like 98, 6, like so the early 90s. Then you have the .com boom, right? 96, right? 2.4, 97, 4% increase. 98, 6.5, 7%, almost 8%. 9, 6, 9, 9, 13, 13. It's like boom. After 1996, every year was like average, probably like 8% increase. That's crazy, bro. And here's the thing, though. Okay, so here's the thing. Those that were waiting for the market, let's just say you were waiting for the market to go down in 2004, right? You said, you know what, I'm going to wait. It went up 13.7%. I'm going to wait till it crashes. Well, in 2005, it went up 13.6. So now you're higher. And although it's dropped, and if you add those up, essentially, it's almost like a 20% drop over those 4 years. Well, you had a 26% increase 2 years prior. So it just went back to where you originally were waiting at. Does that make sense? Simple math-wise. So if I waited in 2003, I said, home prices, it went up 9.8%. It's too expensive. I'm going to wait till things level out. Okay, so if it was too expensive in 2003, in 4, 5, and 6, it went up, for simple math reasons, it went up 25%. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, if you added those up, right, it went down like 25%. So you're still at square one. That person that waited 7 years didn't save any money.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
There you go. I mean, now, granted, if they would have bought then, who knows how that loan was written up. It might have been, hindsight is 2020, but it might have been the move. Let's just say they were able to buy it, though. They put 20% down. Let's just say their income stayed the same. They didn't have money in the stock market. They had the one house. They were able to ride out that recession. They'll be up so much money right now on that home.
We know a couple people that were able to do exactly that.
So you can't say, well, I'm glad I didn't buy. Well, it all depends on your situation. If you're buying 0% down and you probably shouldn't have been buying that house in the first place, it's probably a good thing you didn't buy.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
It all depends on someone's financial situation.
Yeah.
And we have this conversation all the time.
Yeah.
We tell people, we say there's never a bad time to buy. And why do we say that, Victor?
Because at the end of the day, everything has presented to you. And if it makes sense for you, then why not, right? But if it doesn't, it's not like we're forcing them to buy it at that time either. Like,
no.
So, and we had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation with a couple people that were over at my house. It was my daughter's birthday. And they were asking me, hey, is it a good time to buy right now, or when is it a good time to buy? And it's the same answer every single time. We will always say the same thing over and over again. It's a good time to buy whenever it's financially beneficial for you to be able to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, we're not fortune tellers. We all hope that everyone has a healthy life, a safe life. Financially, everyone's good, but stuff does happen. If you listen a couple podcasts ago, we talk about foreclosure and short sales. There's stuff that happens. Nothing is perfect, okay? That being said, if we just look at the historical data, and I'm like showing my phone here, and I told you now's a good time to buy, based on 75 years of data, it's a good time to buy. There's no bad time to buy. Even buying during the crash was not a bad time to buy, because even if you bought at the start of 2008, and your property value dropped 12% on average, right? And then the next year it dropped another 4%, and then the next year another 4%, and then the next year another 4%. Now, man, I'm down 26. It's compounding, so you're probably down like 35 to 40% of the value of your home. But guess what? You were able to ride it out. Your payment stayed. You might have probably been in an ARM product, and we'll get into that, but adjustable rate mortgages is what kind of caused all this to happen. And it was a big thing back then. It's not as big now. There's not too many benefits to an adjustable rate mortgage right now, depending on the home and the loan and stuff like that. But let's just say you were able to ride it out and you were able to make those payments. Your home, not only would you have made your money back from your original purchase. So let's say you bought for $500 and 4 years later, it's only worth $250, which happened. People in neighborhoods are buying for $500-$600 and they were half price 4 years later, right? And they couldn't refinance and the rate was high. That's what caused all this stuff, okay? Well, if you were able to hold on, your now home that was worth $300,000 went up 6.5% in 2012. In 2013, it rebounded 10.6%, right? 4%, 5%, 6%, 6%, 4%, 4%. COVID happens. Recession? Money was tight, right?
Yep.
Money was pretty tight during COVID.
Everyone had a panic attack.
Until they started printing money.
Yeah.
Then it came a little bit easier. Wonder why things are expensive now, huh? Right. Anyways, 2020, home prices, 10.6% increase. 2021, peak pandemic. Small businesses going out of business. Can't leave your house 6 feet apart. Well, guess what? Your home prices went up 19% nationwide. 19% nationwide, bro. We're in the Bay Area. What do you think they were up? They were up more than 19%.
More than that, for sure, yeah.
That means if you were on the fence in 2019 about buying, by 2021, that home was essentially 25% more expensive. This is why we tell people, if you can afford it, buy. Because are you going to save 25% more money in 2 years?
Probably not. I mean, the average person
doesn't save.
Yeah.
Pull it up. Pull it up, Victor. Ask Grok AI. Or do you have Grok AI?
What does the average
American have in their savings account? I bet you it's like less than $5,000.
Save per year.
What's that number?
Let's pull it up. The average American savings per year can vary widely based on income, expenses, and economic conditions. However, here are some general figures. Personal savings rate. The U.S. personal savings rate, percentage of disposable income saved, has historically ranged between 5% and 10%, though it fluctuates based on economic conditions. Average savings in dollars. According to the recent data, the typical American saves around $5,000 to $7,000 per year, but this varies significantly by income level.
I know my shit, bro. I tell people all the time. You can ask my wife. She gets so mad because I know all these Snapple facts. I knew it was like 5,000 or less.
Yeah.
Right? 5,000 per year. Okay. An increase of, okay, let's go this last year. So 2024 prices went up 4%. Average home in Contra Costa County, I think it's like $800,000 now, right?
Yeah.
What's 4% of $800,000?
4% of $800,000.
Is this like 32,000?
Let me do the math real quick. 800,000 times 0.04. 32,000.
32,000. So you're only saving $5,000, $7,000 if you're smart, but that home just cost you $32,000 more because you waited. You were waiting for it to crash. And guess what? Okay, let's just say it does go down in 2025. When things go down, minus Great Recession, And it's only going down.
0.02.
See what
So
I'm
that's
saying?
half of 32,000. That's $16,000.
No, it go. Yeah. No, it only goes down like that's of a percent. It's point 0.2 of a 0.2 of the value. Yeah, no, it's less. It's not even 1%. This is 0.002.
Okay.
So do 832.
832.
Stay with us, guys. if you're listening.
832,000.
832,000 times 0.002.
$1,664.
Yeah, so your house went down $1,600. That's what 0.2%. It wasn't 2%. It's 0.2%.
0.02%.
No, 0.2%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you take 0.002 and you times it by 100, that'll give you 0.2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Oh, it went down. Yeah, $1,600. So when you listen to like TikTok or IG and they're saying, oh, the housing market went down, it hasn't. But if it was to go down like 1%, they'll say something like, you'll hear someone, they're not lying to you. Oh, the housing market saw its first. This is what media. This is why I'm not in media, bro. This is why my degree to some extent is worthless, because I don't like how the media is. They'll twist that because they want clicks, they want views. 2025 housing market drops for first time since Great Recession. That would be a true statement.
Panic attack, right?
Yeah, that's the headline.
They want to instill
and then
fear.
Now everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
So everyone goes on Instagram and puts the little title behind them and it says, this administration has caused the housing market to drop for the first time since the Great Recession. What is happening?
They start pointing fingers and
then meanwhile, me and Victor are here scratching our head like, what are you talking about? These houses are still like $1 million.
Yeah.
Where's the drop?
Right.
Because if it's a national average of like 0.2%, we're not seeing it here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
We're probably the opposite. We probably went up 2%.
Yeah.
You know, maybe cities that had growth, like people coming from other states, maybe or exceptional growth in some rural areas, they seen the drop.
Yeah.
It's an average. So
we're in a very different micro economy.
Yeah, but you get what I'm getting at? They're not lying. The headline
Right.
is not a lie.
Yeah.
But what does that mean, like, dollar-wise? You know, because now you're sending out the wrong message. If you were a buyer and you heard that message and you didn't know the actual dollar amount, what would you think?
I'd be very scared. Like, maybe I shouldn't buy.
Yeah.
But it's quite the opposite.
You should be buying.
You should be buying.
Because even at its worst, it went down. The worst it's ever dropped out of those 7 times was 12%. Let's call it 12%. Here's the thing, though. Lending is totally different than then.
The rules are different. They've changed.
So the lender's factoring in all this stuff, right? Yes, they can't determine if you're going to keep your job or whatever, right? That's more on you and what profession you're in, stuff like that. But they're saying if all things stayed the same, you should be good. Should be able to afford this home, right? Before, they didn't care. They just went off what you told them.
You could walk in, say, and they'll ask you, what do you want to pay per month, Mr. Smith? And you tell them, I want to pay $1,500 a month. Back then, right? Let's just pretend. Mm-hmm. They would give you get you into a loan without checking all the facts, right? They'll just ask you, what's your credit? And you just go off by word of mouth. They wouldn't even check.
Bro, credit didn't even matter.
That's my point.
They had something called subprime lending. Subprime lending means your credit score was like below 580. And look, we've all been there, right? Like credit fluctuates. Not judging anybody, but it is a indication of how your financial situation is.
It's a grade on what
it grade you.
It's a grade.
You know,
yeah.
Late payments,
yeah.
Amount owed, stuff like that. Look, people get in tough times. We get it. And it's not perfect system. I don't agree with some stuff that's on. I still think it's kind of weird. I get why they have it because we're one of the few countries that has like a credit system. But I get why it's there. But I don't agree with everything on there.
Yeah.
But there was something called subprime lending. And if you didn't dude, bro, I worked in the bank during the recession. If you have any questions, ask me.
Yeah.
I'm not an economic expert, but I was front line, right? You know, hey, shout out to all my frontline workers, you know, EMTs, police, you know, paramedics, ambulance, firefighters, all those people that helped out during times. Their job's way more important than mine was in banking. But in a crisis that we were having, I was on the front lines, bro. I was the guy you came and yelled at because you lost everything. People would walk into the bank. I started banking in 2006. So before.
Right
like
when it started.
No, like, yeah, kind of, but it was
Yeah.
still like everyone was happy, bro.
Yeah.
I was, 2006, I was 24. I have friends that had like 4 houses, rolling up in their $100,000 Mercedes, like living the life, bro. No one could do any wrong. It was crazy times, bro. It was wild times. But you would walk up and like, I did small business in 2006. And you would come and like, hey, I'm going to open this business. Wink. It's all right. We run your stuff. And the system would tell me if you were qualified for loans or not, right? If you were, it was this easy to get money, bro. You would, I type in your social, type in your business, check your ID. When we ran you to open the account, it would pull your credit score, like a soft pull. It would see the number. It wouldn't hard inquire, but it would see the number. Based on your number and the money you told me you expected your business to make, I just asked you. I was just inputting what you told me. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. That's what I was trained to do.
Right.
That's how the banks lended. Oh, you're going to make, you think this business is going to make $100,000, Mr. Castro? Cool. You're just opening it, but you didn't go make $100,000. Sweet. Oh, you got good credit? Hey, look, my screen says if you say yes, I can give you a $100,000 business line at zero cost for year one and cost you $150 every year after to have $100,000 at your disposal. All you got to do is say yes and sign this line. What do you say? Who says no to that?
Right.
Everyone was like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Sign, boom. Next day, you got access to $100,000 worth of credit. However, if your credit score was low, I would say, hey, you don't have any recommendations for business credit products now, but we do have another department that I'm going to get, with your permission, I can have them contact you and they can go over some other options. And it was called, I don't want to say the company's name, but it was the same bank. It was just their subprime lending, which means you had a credit score of like 580 or below. So that company would call you and they would give you credit. Just would be at a higher cost, higher interest rate, higher cost.
Yeah.
But they would just give it to you. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy times.
So very little to no background checking, right? Just word out of the mouth, to my point, and you can get it a loan.
Sounds similar to like PPP loans, doesn't it? That just took place during the pandemic.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
At the end of the day, it was very easy to get into homes.
It's not anymore.
It's not anymore.
If
They
you've gone
quadruple check you now.
If you've gone through that process, we'll have some of your clients say, like going through the lending process.
How many times do I got to turn in my bank statements? How many times do I got to run my credit? How many times do I got to, like, it is a thing that I set up my clients up. You know, I give them a heads up. Hey, be ready for this because we don't want 2008 to happen again. This is why these things are
100%
put in place.
It's also a reason why if you put less than a certain percentage down, you pay mortgage insurance. Because now there's insurance against housing from crashing.
That protects
the banks.
The banks, not you.
Doesn't
but the
protect
banks.
you.
Yeah.
You're buying insurance for the bank on your loan.
You're paying it monthly on your loan.
So they don't see a 12% decrease 1 year. Can a decrease happen? Absolutely. As your assets at 12%, it would take something catastrophic, not tariffs, not the stock market that really only affects 10% of the population, right? Like it would take something catastrophic to see the housing go down that much.
A recession is not going to cause a housing market crash.
And even if it did, it wouldn't drop enough to change your outlook today as then tomorrow. Because on average, the last 3 years, which you can say we kind of been in a recession, right? Inflation, it's gone up an average of like 5%. You got to think big picture, guys. 5%. This isn't like you're saving 5% on your Starbucks coffee. This is 5% on $1 million. This is $50,000.
Yeah.
You're not going to outsave the rate that homes appreciate. It's impossible. On average, you're only saving $5,000 to $7,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you said 5% of 1 million. That's
$50,000.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5% of 100,000 is 5,000.
Yeah.
5% of 10,000, which is $1 million, is $50,000.
Yeah.
So everyone that bought $1 million home last year is $50,000 on average richer because their home's worth $50,000 more.
How we just went over this. You can't save that money in a year.
How many people are up 50K in their Bitcoin right now or in their crypto? Right? You go up, you go down. I know of people that lost, like, they were up like 300K and then the next morning was down to 60K. So volatile. The most volatile the housing market has been is you're down 12%. That's not that bad. And over 75 years, 68 of them have increased. So like Warren Buffett says, if you guys don't know who Warren Buffett is, please look it up. The most successful investor in the history of investing, buy and hold. That's what you do on homes. You buy and hold. And you sell when it's time to sell, to move on to that next investment, or to cash out, that's when you sell. But you don't buy today, and if it went down 1% tomorrow, you panic. Just write it out.
There's some people in 2008 that actually panic sold, when they could have probably kept it because they heard the news, they didn't know what to do, and they just saw that their home was worth less. So they're like, "Why am I
short sold?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're
They
like,
got out.
They're like, "Why am I selling? Why am I paying for something that doesn't cost $400,000 anymore? It costs half of that." And so they sold it when they shouldn't have.
There's a reason why these companies like BlackRock, and there's even I did some research on. There's like a big company out of Canada that's like buying, like their goal is to buy like 1,000 homes a month in the U.S. and they turn them into rentals. There's a reason why these investment companies are buying housing. It's the same reason people buy gold. It's a tangible item that has a history, a strong history of appreciation.
Crazy. Yeah. It goes up in value.
It's crazy, bro. I mean, anything you want to add? Any advice you want to give those listening to say, don't get caught up?
Yeah. Look, again, do your own research. Inform yourself. See if buying makes sense for you. And if you feel like you're financially in a good position, you have good credit, you have a good paying job, then it's always going to make sense to invest into real estate.
Yeah, 100%, Victor. And again, we're not here to look. Home ownership isn't for everybody. We spoke about that on the last podcast. It's definitely not for Gen Z. We're trying to change that narrative, though.
Yeah.
Right. But to Victor's point, you're gonna know if it makes sense to you, and if it makes sense to do it, then we're here to help you out. We're just going off of historical data of 75 years that it made sense to buy.
Just one last thing that I want to add to that. Look, my Gen Z buyers were approved for way more than at the price that they're currently buying. But they're doing the right thing, right? They're buying where they feel comfortable, and they're stretching their dollar out, but they're sacrificing commute time and the quality of the home, perhaps, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to be theirs, and it's going to go up in value over time.
And they're young.
And they're super young.
They're 18 to 25. So let's just say they own the home for the full 30 years of the mortgage, right? Just say they're in there for 30 years, or they own the home for 30 years. historically, their home's gonna be worth a lot more than what it was when they bought it. Because over those 30 years, maybe it goes down once.
Maybe.
And with that, we look forward
To winning with you.